Skip, this was tough for me because normally what we get an opportunity to do, Skip, we get an opportunity to see preseason games. So you kind of get a feel, you kind of get an indication. And sometimes, when you watch Sports Channel, they'll show practices. But because of COVID, we hadn't been able to see any of that. So basically, we just had to take word of mouth, who's playing well, who's injured, or things of that nature. And so for me, I don't know, Skip, and you have a dog, you have Hazel, I don't know how you did it, but normally when I purchase a dog, I normally fly out to the location, I tour the facility, I look at the parents of the dog that I'm going to potentially get, and I normally buy 2, so I'll sit down and play with them and see the temperament. I'm trying to get offsetting temperaments because I don't want 2 passive dogs, I don't want 2 aggressive dogs, and so I get an opportunity to see how the dogs are going to blend and see how they grow up. Doesn't always work out that way, Skip, but at least I have a general idea of what I'm getting myself into.
We drove to Burbank. We don't fly, we just drive to Burbank. That's all.
Well, I flew to Ohio, I flew way to Massachusetts, I flew up to Chicago, I drove to Bayless, Mississippi. So
Hazel is a Valley girl.
I see. Yeah, she got some Valley girl parents too. Yeah. And so for me, Skip, not having an opportunity to see any preseason games is hard for me. But for me, it was 2 teams I had to choose between. For me, because I think they're the 2 most talented teams in the AFC. It was between Kansas City and Baltimore. And at the end of the day, I went with Kansas City because of Mahomes and that offense. I still believe with Watkins and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Mecole Hardman that drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round, I just think offensively they're going to be really, really good. And I don't want people to think because if Mahomes doesn't throw for 50 touchdowns, he had an off year. Because if you compare everybody to their greatest statistical season, well, he might be off for the rest of his career, Skip, because he had a historically great season in his second year. 50 touchdowns, over 5,000 yards, he was MVP. So I went with the AFC, I went with Kansas City over Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. In the NFC, it came down to 2 teams again, and for the very same reasons, it was between the Saints and Seattle. And the thing is, Skip, if you think about also, what gives these teams an advantage? When we think of Saints, that dome, the noise. Seattle, the 12th man, that noise. Now all of a sudden, that really is not coming into play.
Nope.
And so for me, the addition of Emmanuel Sanders, the certainty, the continuity of Drew Brees being in this offense again, Sean Payton being at the helm, and you Jerry Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Thomas, very good offensive line. Defensively, they're better than people think. With Marcus Lattimore, Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis was first-team All-Pro at the linebacker position. So for me, Skip, I went with the Saints over Seattle, and I got Kansas City over the Saints in the Super Bowl.
So you're going with the chalk again.
There ain't no chalk.
Just pick the favorite.
Oh.
Safe. Who can criticize that? You can say, well, they were the favorite.
Whoa. I'm interested to see who you pick.
Okay. First, I'm going to tell you my issues with your 2 picks.
Okay.
The Chiefs last year. I never got sold on them, and I'm still not completely sold on them because in the middle of the season, they lost back-to-back home games to Indy and then the Texans. And by the way, the Texans are there tonight. And Deshaun badly, completely outplayed Mahomes in his house in that game.
Which one, the first game or the second game?
The regular season game.
Okay,
yes, by a lot.
Yeah.
Not in the second game. Obviously, he got out to a rip-roaring start. He got up 24-0.
Right.
So he was outplaying him to that point when Bill O'Brien said, I think I better take the field goal on 4th and 1.
24-0.
Could have been much worse. Should have been, 28-0, right?
Then all you would have did was make my homeboy legend even bigger.
And then I'm going to say this one more time, but in that Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes did not play great in that Super Bowl, even though he wound up MVP. He had a QBR of 56, which is just ordinary. It's right in the middle. And he threw an interception late in the 3rd quarter with them down 20-10, and then he threw another one early in the 4th quarter with them down 20-10. And he got away with the all-time escape artist play on the 3rd and long play, 3rd and forever, where he just threw a punt to Tyreek, and it just happened to be open, and he came back for it, waited for a fair catch, and caught it, and that was the game.
Didn't he tell you
that got him out of jail?
He wanted to make sure he didn't overthrow him. He said he put it up there and trusted Tyreek. That's what he told you.
To Patrick Mahomes' credit, he came on the show, and we went back and forth about it, and he obviously didn't love that I keep saying that, but it's just what I saw. And what I also saw was you were so lucky to have as your opposing quarterback Jimmy G in that game, who in the fourth quarter went 3 for 11 for a grand total of 36 yards and an interception, and missed Emmanuel Sanders at the goal line for a play that could have changed our conversation right now. Okay, but they did it. They won it, and he was the MVP. God bless you all. I got all that, but I still have some reservations about their dynamic, their dynastic greatness. I'm not sure about that. And the Saints I saw last year, I saw a decline in Drew Brees I did not see in Tom Brady. I saw Drew Brees with the best receiver in football start to lose a little bit of arm strength where he had to start sort of javelin throwing in the pocket where he had to get a little bit of a running start before he it. Okay, he's on his last legs. He pretty much admits, last hurrah, here we go. I admire him greatly because you know and I know he's got guts and he will fight you and battle you. So I got all that. And everything you say on paper, they look like they could be that team. But before I get to my NFC pick, I'm going to do my AFC. Baltimore should have won it all last year, and they're going to win it all this year. That's just what I believe. They had won 12 straight games to get to 14-2. And they did themselves in because they were too good for their own good, and then they didn't play starters in that last regular season game. So they go effectively 3 weeks, and they run into a buzzsaw that had just gone up to New England and ended Tom Brady's run as a Patriot, right? The Tennessee Titans. And they came in hot, and they stayed hot, and they jumped all over Lamar and company. And Lamar had another bad night. That's 2 playoff bad games that he's had, 0 for 2. You want to talk about on a mission? This young man, you want to talk about guts? You want to talk about baller and gamer? He will be on this mission to right all those wrongs this year.
It's good. It could be all talk, but from what I've been hearing coming out of Baltimore, is that he's even better at throwing the football this year than he was last year. And he was the unanimous MVP, and he threw 36 touchdowns.
I do not doubt it. And I told you, the one receiver who tormented me as an Oklahoma fan the most over the last 3 years was Devin Duvernay of Texas. Every time we played him, I'd look up, and he's open again, and he's open again. You can't cover him. He just he's one of those guys who just gets open like 7-Eleven Chris Hogan open, but he just keeps getting open, and he's better than Chris Hogan. He's just quicker and a little faster. I don't know. I think Chris Hogan can run a little bit.
Yeah, Chris Hogan. Remember, he went up for over 100 yards in the Super Bowl.
I got it. The point is, they stole him in the 3rd round. He will help Lamar because he's just going to be open out of the slot. He's the classic slot receiver. And then on offense, they also added J.K. Dobbins, who I just loved. He just makes yards. So I know they still got, obviously Ingram and Justice Hill. But you watch this kid. Watch J.K. get his carries and take his pound of flesh from defenses. And speaking of defense, they added Calais. I love
and Derek Wolfe.
But Calais is the vintage. You know this because you did this.
Raven.
You were you came to the Ravens right on time to help them win a championship. That's how they do it. They say, please come here, nearing the end of your career, but you're still at the end of your prime, and help us take over on defense again. And he will. And I think it actually cleared some air for them to get rid of Earl Thomas. And I never thought I would say this, but that team is now reunited, back together again. And here they come, and it's hard for me to bet against that. And I think it's hard for you to bet against it.
For me, in the AFC, it was 2 teams. It was Kansas City and Baltimore. That's it. And the question is, at any point in time, Skip, will fans be allowed back into a stadium at obviously it's not going to be at capacity, but at what point is it going to be allowed to be 50%, 60% capacity? Because that's one of the advantages that Kansas City have. I played basically my whole career in the AFC West. And when you get 80,000 screaming fans, and they won't be 80, even if you can get 50,000, that gives them an advantage. And so that's why I went with Kansas City. But I believe it's going to be Kansas City over Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. Now, what I'm like, oh, my God, I can't believe Baltimore beat Kansas City. Would it be one of those moments? No. Absolutely not. But I just took Kansas City over.
So I got Baltimore winning the AFC and winning the Super Bowl over Tampa Bay. This is going to be that magical ride year. It's going to be the best story in football. It's going to be the best, as you tell me, narrative, because it's going to be an MVP,
it's a great narrative.
MVP narrative, because Tom Brady went to the worst receivers as a group in football, to me, last year in New England, to the best that he has now in Tampa Bay. It's the GOAT reunited with the GOAT tight end. Even you have acknowledged that Gronk is that guy. You say, is he still that guy at age 31?
Right.
He got fresh. He got healed up. He took a year off. He seems revitalized and re-energized because he reunited with Tom Brady in Tampa. And you're joining two Pro Bowl wideouts. One of them's nicked right now, and I don't know if Mike Evans is going to be able to go on Sunday. He's got a soft tissue, some pull. I don't know what it is, but we'll see about that. And obviously, O.J. Howard is potentially, he's a Pro Bowl quality tight end. He will reemerge from the doghouse. Cameron Brate is a red zone weapon. He is so dependable. Brady will love his trustability in the red zone as the other tight end. And then I keep raving about little Scotty Miller. He's just a little lightning bug. Pew, pew. And they will split him out some, but mostly have him in the slot. And he will be the Amendola Edelman. And the offense, they got their Donovan Smith, their left tackle, who thought he might opt out, but he came back. And Tristan Wirfs, I thought they stole him in the draft. They moved up a slot to get him at 13. I thought he was the best of those big four stud tackles. He's starting at right tackle. So Brady will be protected. I think a little better than he was last year. They don't have just a decent defense. They have a top 10 defense with a top 5 coordinator in Todd Bowles. And look what they added. Do I need to go down the names? Shaq Barrett led the league in sacks, and JPP and Sue and Vita Vea and Levante David and Devin White. I mean, it's firepower, man.
Secondary concerns me.
Okay, but Antoine Winfield Jr. will start at strong safety, and every time I turned on a Minnesota game last year, I said, look at that guy.
Well, if he's anything,
high IQ, high energy,
like his dad,
ball hawk. You know it.
He'll fight you. He'll be very, very physical, because his dad was very physical.
That is exactly right, and I'm pretty sure he's a chip off that block, and he's going to be starting in this game.
Okay.
So my point is, what's not to like about that? You know, Bruce Arians and Tom Moore and even Clyde Christensen, the quarterback coach. Did you see what he said yesterday?
No.
He said, I would question anyone's quarterback knowledge who questions whether Tom Brady lost something in arm strength last year. He said, I looked at every play last year, and I told you, I'm not in the Hall of Fame. I just watched a whole lot of football. I saw no loss of arm strength.
I ain't gonna get into one of the contests, because I don't like people to say, well, if you don't coach quarterbacks and you didn't do this, you shouldn't be able to critique quarterbacks. But I'm gonna trust Coach Belichick's decision over Clyde Christensen, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Coach Belichick was reacting with his ego.
I'm gonna trust his decision over Clyde Christensen's decision.
He's nearing 70 years of age, and he said, I deserve a chance to win one without that guy.
That's age discrimination. That's age discrimination, Skip.
Okay, he's a young man who said, I've earned the chance to win a championship without Tom Brady. Okay? So,
But they had to have reasons. You just don't let somebody, there's always a reason. It's never just. Let me ask you a question. How many times you just go sit in your car? You go in your car, you go work out, well, you don't anymore. You go to the grocery store, you go somewhere. It's never just. There's always a reason. It's never just. Jenny, you can't sit in your car and just sit there? No, you go to work, really. You go wine tasting, you and Matt go up in Malibu. That's what you do, Skip. It's never just. So Coach Belichick, it's never just.
I sometimes go sit in my car while it's going like 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you going somewhere.
On Avenue of the Stars at like 4 o'clock.
Well, you better let me catch you.
Yeah.
Don't let me catch you.
Yeah, catch me.
I kind of want to ride with you, Skip, in that Corvette.
Okay,
I want to see this 90-mile thing.
I did have one Super Bowl dark horse in the AFC, and I'm going to just throw it out there because I didn't have the guts. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be a factor in this. I think it's a loaded football team with a new culture under Sean McDermott, and Stephon Diggs is going to take them up a level, and that quarterback may not be great in overall capability, but he will fight you also at about 6'5", 260 with a huge arm. Just watch that team. They are going to be a factor, and they will win the AFC East easily.
You might be loaded saying something like that.
Nope.
You might be low-key faded. Are you on that Zeke?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I hope Zeke isn't low-key faded this year is all I hope.
accusations around here. Oh, I just feel good that we finally have some football to watch tonight. It feels like a long time coming. Appreciate your predictions, guys. Thank you for that.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.